She caught her fiancé with her sister. Heartbroken, she met a stranger on the beach who offered her sanctuary on his private island. No escape, no phone, just his dark eyes promising to make her forget. "I've imagined you like this, wet, wanting, whispering my name." Victor's voice was dark promise as he claimed her in the infinity pool. What Isla didn't know, he'd been fantasizing about her for 2 years while watching from the shadows. And he'll burn the world down before he lets her go. Welcome back to Proudly Black Stories, my beautiful, amazing Pride family. You all have been so supportive, and I promise to always try my best to give you the best stories as I learn and improve every day. If this is your first time coming across my video, do comment below where you're watching from and hit subscribe to officially join the Pride family. Now, let's get into today's story. Isla Corvain stood in the doorway of her own bedroom, her keys still dangling from numb fingers, watching her fiancé move beneath her sister's body. The world didn't shatter all at once. It cracked slowly, like ice spreading across a windshield, each second revealing another fracture in the life she thought she'd built. Dorian's head turned first, his expression not surprised or guilty, but almost bored. Marlo didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. She smiled, that same cat-like smile she'd given Isla their entire lives, the one that said she'd won again. "He never loved you, Isla," Marlo said, her voice honey-sweet and poisonous. She didn't bother covering herself, didn't scramble for sheets or explanations. "He just needed your trust fund access." "We both did." The room tilted. Isla gripped the doorframe, her engagement ring suddenly too heavy, too tight, a shackle she'd placed on her own finger. "Dorian," she whispered, hating how her voice broke on his name, hating how even now she wanted him to deny it, to explain, to make it make sense. He sat up, running a hand through his dark hair, the same hair she'd touched just this morning before leaving for the gallery. "Don't be dramatic, Isla. You're a means to an end. You've always been a means to an end, pretty enough to show off, connected enough to be useful, naive enough to believe I actually wanted to marry you." Each word landed like a physical blow. The apartment, the business they were building together, the wedding planned for next spring, the future she'd sketched in her mind with such careful detail, all of it dissolved like watercolor in rain. Marlo stretched languidly, deliberately, making sure Isla saw every inch of what she'd lost. "Oh, don't cry, big sister. It doesn't suit you. Besides, you should thank me. I'm saving you from a boring marriage to a man who closes his eyes and thinks of someone else every time he touches you." Isla didn't remember moving. One moment she was in the doorway, the next she was running, her heels abandoned somewhere in the hallway, her purse dropped, her phone left behind with everything else that used to matter. The Miami night swallowed her whole, humid and thick, the kind of heat that made it hard to breathe, or maybe that was the sob clawing up her throat. She ran until her feet bled, until the penthouse towers gave way to palm trees and then to sand, until the ocean sprawled before her like an escape route she couldn't take. South Beach at 2 in the morning was a strange purgatory, caught between the last desperate partiers and the early risers who didn't exist yet. Isla collapsed onto the sand, her designer dress, the one she'd worn to impress a client, ruined and salt-stained. She'd built her entire identity on being chosen by her family to be the good daughter, the responsible one, chosen by Dorian to be his partner, his future wife. But none of it had been real, none of it had been her choice at all. "A woman like you shouldn't cry over a man like him." The voice cut through the darkness, smooth and dangerous, the kind of voice that made promises it probably shouldn't keep. Isla looked up, tears blurring her vision, and saw him, tall, broad-shouldered, with dark eyes that caught the moonlight and held it. He wore a black suit despite the heat, perfectly tailored, and he looked at her like he could see every broken piece and wasn't afraid of the sharp edges. "You don't know anything about me," Isla said, her voice raw. She wiped at her face, angry at herself for crying, angry at him for witnessing it, angry at the entire universe for being so casually cruel. He moved closer, his steps deliberate, controlled. Everything about him radiated control, from the way he stood to the slight tilt of his head as he studied her. I know you've been running for 20 minutes. I know you left your shoes somewhere around 5th Street. I know whoever made you cry doesn't deserve the tears. Are you following me? The question should have frightened her, should have sent her running again, but Isla was too tired, too broken, too empty to care. Not following, he said, and something in his tone suggested the distinction mattered to him. Watching. He extended his hand, and even in the darkness she could see it was scarred across the knuckles, the hand of someone who'd fought for things, who'd bled for things. Let me offer you something better than tears. Sanctuary. Isla stared at his hand like it was a loaded gun. Everything in her life had led to this moment, every choice, every betrayal, every carefully constructed lie that she'd believed, because believing was easier than seeing the truth. She should ask his name. She should call someone, though who was left to call when her fiancé was in bed with her sister and her friends were really Dorian's friends, and her family had never really been hers at all. Why? She asked instead. His smile was slow, dangerous, beautiful in the way a storm is beautiful. Because you deserve better than crying on a beach at 2 in the morning. Because I can give you a place where no one will find you, hurt you, lie to you. Because, Isla Corvain, I've been waiting for you to need me. He knew her name. He already knew her name. The red flags were there, bright and obvious, but Isla was so tired of being careful, being good, being the woman everyone expected her to be. Where had careful gotten her? Where had good led, except to a bedroom where the man she loved proved he'd never loved her at all? She took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and sure, and he pulled her to her feet with effortless strength. No questions tonight, he said, his voice dropping lower, intimate. Just escape. A black car waited at the edge of the beach, sleek and expensive, the kind of car that suggested either great wealth or great danger, or possibly both. A driver stood beside it, professional and silent, opening the door without being asked. The interior smelled like leather and something else, something dark and expensive that Isla couldn't name. He slid in beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat of him, close enough that when the car started moving she swayed and his arm came around her shoulders, steadying her. "You're shaking," he said, and it wasn't a question. From cold or fear? Both, Isla admitted. Because what was the point of lying when her entire life had been revealed as a lie already? He shrugged off his jacket, wrapping it around her shoulders. It was still warm from his body, and it swallowed her, huge and protective and smelling like cedar and something spicy she couldn't identify. "Good," he murmured, his lips close to her ear, so close she could feel his breath against her skin. "Fear means you're still alive, and I have plans for you, Isla." She should ask what plans. She should demand to know where they were going, who he was, why he'd been watching her. Instead, she closed her eyes and let the car carry her away from everything she'd known, everything she'd lost, everything she'd never really had. What would you do in Isla's position? Go with the mysterious stranger or return to face your betrayers? The drive took 20 minutes, maybe 30. Isla lost track. She drifted in and out of awareness, exhaustion and shock pulling her under. When she surfaced, they were at a private dock. The city's lights a distant glitter across the water. A yacht waited, enormous and sleek, the kind of vessel that suggested the man beside her didn't just have money, he had the kind of wealth that redrew maps. "Where are we going?" she finally asked, her voice small in the darkness. "Somewhere safe," he said, helping her onto the deck. The yacht's engines purred to life, powerful and smooth, and Miami began to slip away. He guided her to a cabin below deck, all white leather and polished wood and windows that showed nothing but black water. "Sleep, Isla. Tomorrow you'll have questions and I'll have answers. Tonight, just rest." He moved to leave, and she caught his wrist, surprising herself. "I don't even know your name." He looked down at her hand on his arm, and something flickered in his dark eyes, something that might have been satisfaction or possession or hunger. "Victor," he said softly. "Victor Reyes. And I promise you, Isla, you're going to know me very, very well." She slept, and it was the kind of sleep that came after crying, dreamless and deep. When she woke, sunlight poured through the windows so bright it hurt. The yacht had stopped moving. Isla sat up, still wearing her ruined dress, Victor's jacket pooled around her waist. Her feet were bandaged, she realized with a start, neat white gauze wrapped around the cuts from her barefoot flight. Someone had tended her wounds while she slept. The cabin had a attached bathroom, all marble and gold fixtures, with a shower big enough for 3 people and water pressure that felt like a massage. Hanging on the door was a silk robe, dove grey and exactly her size. Isla showered until her skin turned pink, washing away the previous night, though some stains went deeper than water could reach. She wrapped herself in the robe and ventured out. The yacht was docked at a private island, because of course it was. Through the windows she could see white sand beaches, impossible blue water, and in the distance a house that made her breath catch. It sprawled across the highest point of the island, all glass and modern angles, looking like something from an architecture magazine, the kind of place she'd dreamed about but never imagined she'd actually see. Miss Corvain. A man stood in the hallway, tall and built like someone who hurt people professionally. He had kind eyes, though, which was disorienting. "I'm Cale, head of security. Mr. Reyes asks that you join him for breakfast. I'll escort you to the main house." "What if I don't want to go?" Isla asked, testing, needing to know the shape of this new cage she'd walked into. Cale's expression didn't change. "Then I'll bring breakfast here, miss, but Mr. Reyes would prefer to see you. He's been waiting." The implication was clear. This wasn't optional, not really, but he was being polite about the lack of options. Isla followed him off the yacht and onto a dock that led to a stone path, tropical flowers blooming on either side, in colors so vibrant they looked unreal. The morning heat was already building, thick and lush, and the sound of waves mixed with bird calls she didn't recognize. The house was even more breathtaking up close. Windows showed an infinity pool that seemed to pour directly into the ocean beyond. Inside, the space was open and clean, expensive art on the walls, the kind of pieces that belonged in museums. Isla recognized a Rothko, an original, unless she missed her guess, hanging casually beside what might be a Basquiat. Whoever Victor Reyes was, he had taste and the money to indulge it. Victor stood on a terrace overlooking the water, and in daylight she could finally see him clearly. He was perhaps 35, maybe older, with black hair and sharp features that suggested Latin heritage. He changed into linen pants and a white shirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal those scarred forearms. When he turned and saw her, his expression shifted into something that made her stomach flip, hunger and satisfaction mixed with something almost tender. "You're even more beautiful in my home," he said, moving toward her with the grace of a predator. "The sunrise suits you." "I'm not staying," Isla said, needing to establish that boundary, even though she had no idea how she'd leave, where she'd go. Last night I needed to get away, but I can't just hide on your island." "Why not?" Victor gestured to the terrace table, laden with fresh fruit, pastries, coffee that smelled like heaven. "Sit, Isla. Eat. Let me explain what I'm offering." She sat because her legs were shaking, because the food smelled incredible, and she couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten. Victor poured her coffee, added cream without asking how she took it, and somehow knew she preferred it sweet. He'd been watching her. The thought should terrify her, but instead it created a strange flutter in her chest, the idea that someone had paid that much attention. "I'm offering sanctuary," Victor said, leaning back in his chair, his dark eyes never leaving her face. "Stay as long as you need. Heal. I'll handle your problems with Dorian, with your sister, with anyone who's hurt you. You'll want for nothing here. Complete safety, complete privacy, complete freedom to become whoever you want to be next. Nothing is free, Isla said, forcing herself to hold his gaze. What do you want in return? His smile was slow, dangerous, the smile of a man who'd been hoping she'd ask, "What do I want?" He stood, moving behind her chair, and she felt his presence like heat at her back. His fingers brushed her shoulder, bare beneath the silk robe, and she shivered despite the tropical warmth. "I want to see if you're as strong as you pretend to be, Isla. I want to watch you stop being the good girl who plays by rules men wrote for you. I want to make you mine." Her breath caught. She should stand, step away, establish distance. Instead, she sat very still, feeling the weight of his hand on her shoulder, the promise in his words. "You can't just claim people, Mr. Reyes." He leaned down, his lips close to her ear, his voice a dark promise. "Call me Victor, and watch me." His phone buzzed, breaking the moment. Victor straightened, pulling the device from his pocket, and Isla saw his expression darken. The name on the screen read, Senna. He declined the call, silencing the phone with more force than necessary. "The past has a way of finding us," he said, his tone careful now, controlled. "But not today. Today is for you to rest, to explore, to decide if you'll accept my offer." "And if I want to leave?" Isla asked, needing to hear him say it. Victor's eyes met hers, and the honesty in them was almost frightening. "Then I'll take you wherever you want to go. But I don't think you want to leave, Isla. I think you want to stay and see what happens when you finally let yourself fall." He was right, and she hated that he was right. Isla spent the rest of the day exploring the estate, because the alternative was sitting still with her thoughts, and her thoughts were nothing but betrayal on an endless loop. The island was perhaps 5 acres, small enough to be private, large enough to feel like freedom. The main house had a gym that looked like it belonged in a luxury hotel, a library with first editions and rare volumes that made her fingers itch to touch them, and that infinity pool that seemed to drop off into nothing. No cell service, she discovered. No phone. No internet. No way to contact the outside world without going through Victor or his staff. The isolation should have frightened her. Instead, it felt like relief, like being cut free from hooks she hadn't known were buried in her skin. Kael appeared periodically, always polite, always professional, making sure she had everything she needed. Lunch appeared on the terrace, fresh fish and tropical fruit and wine that tasted like sunshine. Dinner was at sunset, and Victor had changed into dark slacks and a black shirt that made him look like sin personified. "Sit with me," he said, and it wasn't quite a command, but it wasn't a request either. They ate as the sky turned orange and pink and purple, the ocean reflecting the sunset like liquid fire. Victor asked her about art, about her work at the gallery, about the pieces she loved and why. He listened, like her words mattered, like her opinions were treasures he was collecting. It had been so long since someone actually listened to her, not just waited for their turn to talk. "Tell me about Dorian," Victor said as servants cleared their plates. "Why?" Isla asked, the name leaving a bitter taste despite the excellent wine. "Because I want to know what kind of fool lets you slip away." The compliment landed softly, warming her from the inside. "We were together for 2 years, she said, hating how her voice still caught. "He pursued me, convinced me he loved me, proposed at Christmas. I really thought we were building something real. And your sister?" Victor's tone was carefully neutral. We've always been different. Competitive. But I never thought I didn't know she hated me enough to—" Isla couldn't finish the sentence. Victor reached across the table, taking her hand. His palm was warm, calloused, the touch of a man who'd worked for things despite his obvious wealth. "She doesn't hate you, Isla. She envies you. You have something she'll never have, no matter who she sleeps with or what she takes from you." "What's that?" Isla asked, her throat tight. "Integrity, kindness, the ability to love without calculating the return on investment." His thumb stroked across her knuckles, a small gesture that felt enormous. "You're rare, Isla Corvain, and rare things are the most valuable." She should pull her hand away. Instead, she turned it over, lacing her fingers through his. "What do you want from me, Victor?" "Really?" His dark eyes caught the last light of sunset, burning. "Everything. But I'll settle for time. Stay, Isla. Let me show you what it's like to be protected, cherished, worshipped the way you deserve." The tension between them pulled tight, a wire humming with electricity. Victor's phone buzzed again, Senna calling, and this time he didn't even look at it before declining. "Nothing matters but this," he said, but something in his eyes suggested that was a lie. 3 days passed in a strange dream. Isla swam in the infinity pool, read in the library, watched sunsets that painted the whole world gold. Victor was everywhere and nowhere, appearing for meals, for evening walks on the beach, disappearing into his private study for hours at a time. Every conversation drew them closer. Every accidental touch, every shared glance, every moment alone felt like foreplay, tension building until Isla thought she'd shatter from it. On the 4th day, restless and unable to sleep, Isla went exploring. The house at 3 in the morning was silent, except for the ocean's constant whisper. She found Victor's study unlocked, which should have been her first warning. Inside, it was all dark, wood, and leather, expensive and masculine. His desk was neat, almost obsessively so, but the filing cabinet was slightly open. Isla told herself to leave, to respect his privacy the way he'd respected hers, but her hands moved anyway, pulling the drawer wider, reaching for the files inside. Her own face stared back at her. Photos, dozens of them, candid shots taken over months. Isla at gallery openings, having coffee at her favorite cafe, leaving Dorian's office, laughing with colleagues. Someone had been watching her, tracking her, documenting her life like she was a subject under study. "I was wondering when you'd find those." She spun, heart hammering. Victor stood in the doorway, wearing only sleep pants, his chest bare and carved with muscle and scars. He didn't look angry. He looked almost relieved, like he'd been waiting for this confrontation. "You've been spying on me," Isla said, her voice shaking with anger or fear or something that felt dangerously like both. "For how long?" 6 months, Victor said, stepping into the room, closing the door behind him with a quiet click. "Since I saw you at the Perez gallery opening, standing in front of that Remedios Varo piece like it held the secrets of the universe, I wanted you to look at me that way." "So you stalked me?" Isla threw the photos onto his desk, scattered evidence of his obsession. "That's not romantic, Victor, that's terrifying." "I studied you," he corrected, moving closer, each step deliberate. "I learned what made you smile, what made you sad, who hurt you, who made you laugh. Everything I discovered made me want you more, Isla. You're beautiful and you don't even know it. Not really. Not the deep beauty that matters." He was close enough to touch now, and Isla's anger warred with something more dangerous, something that heated her blood and made her skin feel too tight. "You had no right to invade my privacy." "I know," Victor said simply. "I'm not apologizing for wanting you, Isla. I saw something precious being wasted on a man too stupid to value you, and I needed to understand what made you shine so bright." "That's not love," Isla said, but her voice wavered. "That's obsession." Victor's hand came up, cupping her face with a gentleness that contradicted the hunger in his eyes. "Yes," he agreed. "It started as obsession. Watching you, learning you, wanting you from a distance. But then I actually met you, actually heard your voice, actually felt your hand in mine, and obsession became something much more dangerous." "What?" The word came out breathless. "Need. The kind that rewrites everything you thought you knew about yourself." His thumb brushed across her lower lip, and she gasped. "I've had many women, Isla. Beautiful women, sophisticated women, women who knew exactly what they were getting into. but I've never wanted to keep one before you. I've never looked at someone and thought mine the way I think it every time I see you. Do you think Isla should trust Victor despite his admission of watching her for months? She should step back, leave the study, maybe even demand to leave the island. Victor's smile was slow, devastating, full of dark promise. Right now, I want you to stop fighting what we both feel. I want you to admit that this tension between us is driving you as crazy as it's driving me. I want you to stop being afraid of wanting something just because it's dangerous. I'm not afraid, Isla said, lifting her chin. You're terrified. Of me, of this, of yourself. Good. Fear makes everything sharper. Either tell me to leave you alone or kiss me, Isla, but stop looking at me like you want to be devoured unless you mean it. The choice hung between them, enormous and irreversible. Isla thought of Dorian, who'd never looked at her like she was anything but convenient. Of Marlowe, who'd smiled while betraying her. Of every safe choice she'd ever made that had led absolutely nowhere. She thought of surveillance photos and private islands, and a man who'd spent 6 months learning everything about her because he couldn't stay away. What if I do mean it? She whispered. Victor's control cracked. Just a fracture, but she saw it in his eyes, felt it in the way his fingers tightened in her hair. Then stop talking and show me. Isla kissed him, rising on her toes, closing the distance between them with a recklessness that felt like freedom. Victor made a sound low in his throat, surprise and satisfaction. And then he took over, kissing her like he'd been starving for it, like she was air and he'd been drowning. His mouth was hot and demanding, his tongue sliding against hers in a way that made her knees weak. His free arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her against the hard planes of his body, and she could feel every inch of him, the strength and heat and barely controlled desire. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. His eyes had gone almost black with want. "Last chance to run," he said, his voice rough. "Because if we do this, if I have you, I won't let you go, Isla. I'll ruin you for anyone else. Ruin me," she said, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. The words unleashed something in him. Victor kissed her again, deeper, hungrier, walking her backward until she hit the desk. He lifted her onto it with effortless strength, stepping between her legs, and the silk robe she wore rode up to her thighs. His hands mapped her waist, her hips, sliding up to cup her face as he kissed her like he was trying to memorize the taste of her. "Not here," he said against her mouth, breathless. "You deserve better than a desk for this." He scooped her up, carrying her through the silent house to his bedroom, a space she hadn't seen before. All glass walls and moonlight, the ocean visible on 3 sides, making it feel like they were floating on the water. The bed was enormous, covered in dark silk sheets that whispered as he laid her down. Victor stood at the edge of the bed, looking at her with such naked want that Isla felt it like a physical touch. He came down over her, bracing himself on his forearms, kissing her slowly now, thoroughly, like they had all the time in the world. His hands moved with deliberate intent, untying the robe, spreading it open, exposing her to his gaze. She'd worn nothing beneath it to bed, and now she lay bare beneath him while he was still half-dressed, and the imbalance should have embarrassed her, but instead it made her feel powerful, desired, worshipped. "You're perfect," Victor murmured, his mouth trailing down her throat, across her collarbone, lower. "I've imagined you like this, spread out in my bed, soft and willing and mine." His hands learned her body with patient, thorough precision, finding every place that made her gasp, every touch that made her arch. When his mouth closed over her breast, she cried out, her fingers digging into his shoulders. He was in no hurry, taking his time, building the pleasure slowly until Isla thought she'd lose her mind from it. "Victor," she gasped, not sure if she was begging him to stop or never stop. "Say my name like that again," he commanded, his voice dark velvet against her skin. "Let me hear you." She did, again and again, as his hands and mouth worked magic on her body. When he finally positioned himself above her, when she felt him hard and ready, the reality of what they were about to do crashed over her. This man had watched her for months, had brought her to his private island, had revealed himself to be obsessed with her in ways that should send her running. And she was about to give herself to him completely, cross a line that could never be uncrossed. Victor must have seen something in her expression because he paused, his hand coming up to cup her cheek. "Isla, look at me." His dark eyes were intense but softer now, almost vulnerable. "I know this is fast. I know you barely know me, but I swear to you I will never hurt you the way he did. I will never take you for granted, never make you feel less than the extraordinary woman you are. You're not just another conquest. You're everything I didn't know I was searching for." The honesty in his voice undid her last defenses. Isla pulled him down into a kiss, wrapping her legs around his waist, and whispered against his mouth, "Then take me. Make me yours." He entered her slowly, carefully, watching her face, and the sensation was overwhelming, fullness and stretch and pleasure so intense it bordered on pain. Victor held still once he was fully seated, his forehead pressed to hers, his breath coming in ragged gasps that told her how much control this was costing him. "You feel like heaven," he groaned. "Like coming home. Like mine." Then he began to move, slow, deep strokes that built a rhythm between them, a conversation in touch and breath and whispered words. He held her gaze, refusing to let her look away, wanting to see her pleasure, demanding her presence in the moment. When his hand slid between their bodies, finding that sensitive bundle of nerves, Isla's back arched, and she cried out. "That's it," Victor encouraged, his voice strained with control. "Let me see you fall apart, beautiful girl. Let me watch you come undone." The pleasure built impossibly higher, tighter, until Isla thought she'd shatter from it. When the release finally crashed over her, it was devastating, pulling her under in waves that seemed endless. She heard herself crying his name, felt herself clenching around him, distantly registered his own groan as he followed her over the edge. Afterward, they lay tangled together, breathing hard, sweat cooling on their skin. Victor gathered her close, one possessive hand splayed across her stomach, holding her to him like he was afraid she'd disappear. Isla felt tears slide down her temples, overwhelmed by sensation and emotion and the magnitude of what had just happened. "Why are you crying?" Victor asked, his voice gentle, concerned. He turned her face toward him, wiping the tears with his thumb. "I don't know," Isla admitted. It's never been like that before." Something fierce and satisfied flashed in his eyes. "Good. It should never have been like that before. That was just for us." He pressed a kiss to her forehead, tender in contrast to the passion moments before. "Sleep, Isla. I've got you. You're safe here." She shouldn't feel safe in the arms of a man who'd admitted to stalking her, who'd brought her to an island she couldn't leave, who'd just claimed her body with an intensity that spoke of possession. But she did. God help her, she did. Isla was drifting toward sleep when Victor spoke again, his voice quiet in the darkness. "I need to tell you something. About why you're really here." Her eyes opened, sudden alertness chasing away exhaustion. "What do you mean?" "My... one... Before he could answer, the world exploded. Glass shattered inward in a spray of glittering shards. The sound of gunfire, loud and close, peppered the night. Victor's body covered hers instantly, rolling them off the bed and onto the floor, shielding her with his own flesh as bullets tore through the bedroom. "Stay down," he ordered, his voice completely different now, hard and cold and lethal. He rolled away from her, moving with fluid grace to a panel in the wall that opened at his touch. Inside was an arsenal, guns and ammunition, and he grabbed a weapon with the ease of long practice, checking the magazine, chambering a round, all while naked and completely calm. More gunfire, closer now, shouting in Spanish, the sound of footsteps, many of them storming through the house. Victor returned fire, placing shots with precision, and somewhere in the distance Isla heard a scream, the thud of a body falling. "Victor!" she gasped, trying to understand what was happening, why armed men were attacking the island. He fired 3 more shots, each one finding its mark if the screams were any indication, then moved back to her. "We need to get to the panic room. Now." He grabbed the silk sheet, wrapping it around her, then hauled her to her feet. "Stay behind me. Move when I move, and if I tell you to run, you run. Understand?" Isla nodded, too shocked to speak. This was a different Victor. Not the passionate lover or the charming host, but something dangerous, something lethal. He moved through the house like a shadow, weapon up, checking corners, taking down 2 more attackers with shots so precise Isla barely registered them before the men fell. Kale appeared from another hallway, also armed, his kind eyes now cold and professional. "Sir, we've got at least 20 hostiles. They came by boat, military-grade equipment. This is a coordinated assault." "Senna," Victor said, the name a curse. "Get Isla to the safe room." "No," Isla said, finding her voice. "I'm not leaving you." "This isn't a negotiation," Victor said, but his eyes softened fractionally when they landed on her. "Please, Isla, I can fight better if I know you're safe." Another explosion rocked the house, closer this time. Kale grabbed Isla's arm, pulling her down another hallway, while Victor provided cover fire. They reached a hidden door behind a bookshelf, and Kale pushed her inside. The panic room was small but well-appointed, with monitors showing security feeds from around the island. "Stay here," Kale said. "Mr. Reyes will come for you when it's clear." The door sealed with a hydraulic hiss, leaving Isla alone with glowing screens that showed her the battle raging outside. Victor moved through the feeds like an avenging angel, taking down attacker after attacker, his security team fighting alongside him. But there were so many of them, and eventually she watched him take a hit, blood blooming across his shoulder, his face twisting in pain, though he never stopped fighting. 20 minutes that felt like 20 hours. Finally, the gunfire stopped. The monitors showed bodies, too many bodies, but Victor was still standing, still moving, searching. He appeared in the hallway outside the panic room, and Isla heard the codes being entered, the locks disengaging. The door opened and he stood there covered in blood, some his own and some definitely not, looking like violence personified. But his eyes when they found her were soft, worried, almost desperate. "Are you hurt?" he demanded, his hands moving over her, checking for injuries, even though she'd been sealed in the safest room on the island. "I'm fine," Isla said, though she was shaking so hard she could barely stand. "Victor, what the hell just happened? Who were those people?" He pulled her close, heedless of the blood, and she felt him trembling too, adrenaline and relief and fear all mixed together. "We need to talk," he said. "I need to tell you everything. No more secrets, no more half-truths. You deserve to know what you've walked into." He led her back through the destroyed house to his study, which had somehow remained mostly intact. Victor pulled on a shirt despite his wounds, wincing as fabric touched damaged flesh, and poured them both 3 fingers of whiskey. Isla drank hers in one burning swallow. "The woman who's been calling Senna Ashford, she's my ex-wife," Victor began, and his voice was flat, emotionless, like he was reciting facts. "We were married young, too young. I was 22 and stupid and thought I loved her. Turned out she was beautiful and brilliant and completely psychotic. Why is she attacking you?" Isla asked, pouring herself more whiskey. "Because when I finally got smart enough to leave her, when I divorced her and cut her out of my business, she swore she'd destroy everything I love. For years, she's been trying, attacking my companies, my property, my people. But I've never given her the one thing she really wants, which is..." Victor's dark eyes met hers, and the pain in them was devastating. "To hurt me. Really hurt me. She knows I don't care about money or property or power, not really. She needs to find something I actually love and take it from me." The implication settled over Isla like ice water. "That's why you brought me here. Not to protect me. To hide me from her. Both," Victor said. "Dorian was working for Senna, Isla. She paid him to seduce you, to get close to you, to make you fall in love with him. Your sister, too. Marlo was on Senna's payroll. The betrayal layered on betrayal was too much. Isla's legs gave out, and she sat heavily in one of the leather chairs. Why? Why would your ex-wife care about me? You didn't even know me until a week ago. Victor's silence was damning. Isla looked up and saw guilt written across his face, saw the truth before he spoke it. "How long?" she whispered. "How long have you really been watching me, Victor?" 2 years, he said, and the words fell like stones. "I've been watching you for 2 years, Isla." The room spun. 2 years. Not 6 months like he'd admitted in this very room just hours ago. 2 years of her life. Observed, documented, studied by a man she'd thought she was just meeting. "Why?" The word came out broken. Victor knelt in front of her chair, taking her hands even though she tried to pull away. "Your father," he said, "Cassian Corvain. I knew him, worked with him years ago in the art world. Except it wasn't legitimate art dealing, Isla. It was smuggling, high-end pieces, moving them for criminals and collectors who didn't care about provenance." "No," Isla said, shaking her head. "My father was an art consultant. He died in a boating accident 5 years ago. He was a good man." "He was a smuggler," Victor said, his voice gentle but implacable. "And when a deal went wrong, when we were about to be caught by Interpol, he tried to betray me to save himself. He was going to give them my name, my operation, everything. So I had him killed, Isla. I gave the order, and men carried it out, and your father's boat accident wasn't an accident at all." The words didn't make sense. Isla heard them, but couldn't process them, couldn't reconcile the gentle father she remembered with the criminal Victor described, couldn't understand that the man holding her hands, the man who'd made love to her hours ago, was her father's murderer. "You killed him," she said, testing the words, seeing if they'd feel real when she spoke them. "Yes, and then you stalked his daughter for 2 years." "I didn't know about you at first," Victor said, and now his voice was thick with emotion. "Not until after he was dead. When I learned Cassian had 2 daughters, when I saw the photos from his funeral and realized I'd orphaned you, the guilt nearly destroyed me. I started watching you from a distance, telling myself I just needed to make sure you were okay, that you were provided for." "But guilt turned into something else," Isla said, understanding dawning like nausea. Victor nodded. "I watched you rebuild your life after his death, watched you be so strong, so kind, so beautiful. I told myself I was protecting you from afar, but I was lying to myself. I was obsessed, Isla, obsessed with the daughter of the man I killed, consumed by you in ways that were sick and wrong, and I couldn't stop." Isla yanked her hands free, standing, putting distance between them. "You killed my father and then fell in love with me? That's not romantic, Victor. That's monstrous. I know." He stayed kneeling, looking up at her with naked anguish. "I know what I am, Isla. I'm not asking you to forgive it, but Senna found out about my obsession with you. She's the one who sent Dorian to seduce you, to make you vulnerable. She knew if you were heartbroken, alone, desperate, you'd be susceptible when I finally approached you. This whole thing, your betrayal, our meeting, all of it was orchestrated to draw me out, to make me care about you publicly so she could use you against me. The layers of manipulation were dizzying." Isla pressed her hands to her temples, trying to think, trying to sort through lies and truth. "So everything, every single thing in my life for the past 2 years has been a lie?" "Not everything," Victor said, standing now, moving toward her carefully like she was a wild thing that might bolt. "Not what happened between us tonight, not the way I feel about you. Senna may have pushed us together, but she didn't create this, Isla. This thing between us, this is real. How can I believe anything you say?" Isla demanded, tears streaming down her face. "You've done nothing but lie to me." "I've lied about many things," Victor agreed, his voice rough, "but not about wanting you. That was the only honest thing I've done in years, Isla. You make me want to be better than I am, better than the worst thing I've ever done. You murdered my father." "Yes." The word was torn from him. "I did. And if I could take it back, I would. Not because Cassian didn't deserve it. He knew the risks when he entered our world. But because it put that look in your eyes, that looked like I've destroyed something precious. I can't take it back, Isla. But I can spend every day for the rest of my life trying to be the man you deserve instead of the monster I've been." Isla wanted to hit him, scream at him, hurt him the way he'd hurt her. Instead, she heard herself asking, "Did he suffer?" Victor's expression shifted, surprise and pain. "No, it was quick. I made sure it was quick, for whatever that's worth." It was worth something, though Isla hated that it was. She sank back into the chair, exhausted, overwhelmed, her entire worldview shattered and reformed in the space of an hour. "I need time," she finally said. "I need to think." "Take all the time you need," Victor said, "but understand, Senna knows about you now. Those men tonight were just the first wave. She won't stop until she's used you to destroy me or killed you trying. You're safest here, on this island, where I can protect you." "Protect me?" Isla laughed, but it came out bitter, broken. "You're the danger, Victor. You've always been the danger." "I know," he said softly, "but I'm also the only thing standing between you and something much worse. Senna Ashford makes me look like a saint, Isla, and now that she knows I care about you, she'll never stop coming." The truth of it settled over her, heavy and inescapable. Isla looked at the man before her, bloodied and dangerous, and looking at her like she was his salvation and his damnation all at once. She should demand to leave, should run as far from Victor Reyes as possible. But where would she run to? Back to Miami, where her fiancé had betrayed her with her own sister? Back to a family that had apparently been infiltrated by Victor's enemies? She was a pawn in a game she didn't understand, had been for years without knowing it. "I hate you," she said, testing the words. "I know. I should never forgive you for this. You shouldn't. But some broken part of me understands why you did it, why you watched me, why you couldn't stay away." She stood, moving to the window, looking out at the island, lightening with approaching dawn. "My father wasn't the man I thought he was. Dorian wasn't who I thought he was. Marlowe wasn't. Maybe I'm not who I thought I was either." Victor came to stand beside her, not touching, giving her space. "Who do you want to be?" The question hung between them, enormous and full of possibility. Who did Isla want to be? The good girl who'd spent 28 years following rules and being chosen and ending up with nothing? Or someone new, someone stronger, someone who could look at the man who'd killed her father and see not just a murderer but a man trying desperately to be better? "I don't know yet," Isla admitted. "But I know I'm tired of being a victim in someone else's story. If I'm going to be part of this, part of your world, I do it as an equal. Not a possession, not a prize, not something to be protected and hidden away. Something like hope flickered in Victor's dark eyes. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I need answers. All of them. Everything about my father, about Senna, about why she wants this fortune everyone keeps talking about. I'm saying if I'm bait in this trap, I'm going to be bait that bites back." She turned to face him fully. "Can you give me that?" Victor's hand came up, cupping her face, and despite everything, Isla found herself leaning into the touch. "I can try," he said. "I've spent my whole life taking what I want, owning things, controlling outcomes. But for you, Isla Corvain, I'll try to be a man instead of a monster, a partner instead of a jailer." "Try hard," she said, "because this is your one chance, Victor. Lie to me again. Keep one more secret. Treat me like I'm something to be owned instead of someone to be trusted, and I disappear. I don't care if Senna is hunting me. I'll take my chances alone before I'll be your bird in a gilded cage." "Understood." He pressed his forehead to hers, a gesture of surprising intimacy after everything that had happened. "Tomorrow I'll tell you everything." My whole history, Cassian's involvement, what Senna really wants. All of it. But right now, Isla, right now I need to know if you're going to stay or if I should call for the helicopter. The choice was hers, truly hers. Maybe the first real choice she'd had in longer than she wanted to admit. Isla thought of her ruined life in Miami, of Marlowe's cruel smile, of Dorian's indifferent dismissal. She thought of Victor's hands on her body, the way he'd looked at her like she was precious, the honesty in his voice when he admitted his monstrous deeds. She thought of surveillance photos and panic rooms and a man who'd spent 2 years watching her because he couldn't stay away. It was insane. It was dangerous. It was possibly the worst decision she'd ever make. "I'll stay," Isla said. "For now. Until I decide what I want to do with you." Victor's smile was brilliant, relieved, full of something that looked dangerously like love. "Then come," he said, taking her hand. "Let me tend these wounds and then sleep. Tomorrow the real war begins. Tonight, just let me hold you." They went back to his destroyed bedroom, glass still glittering on the floor, bullet holes in the walls, the scene of their passion and the attack overlapping. Victor found another room, smaller and simpler, and there he let Isla clean his wounds, her hands gentle on his damaged skin. When they finally lay down together, he gathered her close, tucking her against his chest like she was something breakable and precious. "I meant what I said earlier," he murmured into her hair. "You make me want to be better, and I swear to you, Isla, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you." She didn't answer, too exhausted by revelations and violence and emotion. But she didn't pull away either, and when sleep finally claimed her, it was to the steady rhythm of Victor's heartbeat, the rise and fall of his chest, the strength of arms that had killed and protected in equal measure. Tomorrow would bring more truths, more dangers, more impossible choices. But tonight, wrapped in the arms of her father's murderer, Isla Corvain finally slept. Morning came too bright, the sun indifferent to the violence of the night before. Isla woke alone in the unfamiliar bedroom, her body aching in places that reminded her of passion and other places that reminded her of terror. She found Victor on the terrace, shirtless despite his bandaged shoulder, staring at the ocean like it held answers he couldn't find. "There's a helicopter fueled and ready," he said without turning, somehow knowing she was there. "It'll take you anywhere you want to go. New York, London, Tokyo. I have accounts set up, new identity if you want it. Enough money that you'll never have to worry about anything again except living the life you choose." Isla moved to stand beside him, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his skin but not touching. "And if I go, what happens to you? I finish this with Senna, one way or another." His voice was flat, empty, like he was discussing the weather instead of his probable death. "Without you here as leverage, she loses interest or she doesn't. Either way, you're free of this mess, free of me." "You'd let me go?" Just like that. Victor finally looked at her, and the devastation in his dark eyes was raw enough to hurt. "Isla, I've taken so much from you already. Your father, your innocence about who he really was, your ability to trust. I won't take your freedom too. If you want to leave, I'll put you on that helicopter myself and spend the rest of my life, however long that is, knowing I did one decent thing." The declaration should have made her happy, should have been exactly what she wanted. Instead, Isla felt something crack open in her chest, something that had been frozen since she walked into her bedroom and found her world was a lie. What if I don't want to leave? Hope flickered across Victor's face, quickly suppressed. "Don't stay out of fear. Don't stay because you think you have nowhere else to go. I meant what I said. You have resources. You have options." "I'm not staying out of fear," Isla said, surprised to find it was true. "I'm staying because I'm tired of running, tired of letting other people write my story while I just react. Dorian used me. Marlowe betrayed me. My father apparently lived a whole life I knew nothing about. And you've been watching me for 2 years like I'm some project you can't abandon." She turned to face him fully. "So here's what's going to happen, Victor Reyes. I'm going to stay. I'm going to help you finish this, with Senna. And then, when it's over, when we're both still breathing and the dust settles, we're going to figure out what the hell this thing between us actually is." Victor's hand came up, fingers trembling slightly as they traced her jawline. "You're choosing to stay. You're choosing me." "I'm choosing to stop being chosen and start choosing," Isla corrected. "There's a difference. I'm not your possession, your redemption project, or your guilt offering. If we do this, we do it as partners. You teach me your world, I'll show you mine. No more secrets, no more lies, no more treating me like I'm made of glass." "You're not made of glass," Victor said, his voice dropping to that rough timbre that made her stomach flutter. "You're made of steel, wrapped in silk. You're stronger than you know, Isla. Stronger than I gave you credit for. And if you're really staying, if you're really offering me partnership, then I need you to understand what that means. Tell me." "It means I train you, to shoot, to fight, to think like someone who's survived in my world for 15 years. It means you see all of it, the ugly parts I've kept hidden, the things I've done that make killing your father look merciful. It means you stand beside me when Senna comes, and she will come, Isla. She won't stop until one of us is dead." The weight of it settled over Isla, heavy but clarifying. This was the choice. The real one. Not whether to leave the island, but whether to become someone new, someone harder, someone who could survive in the darkness Victor inhabited. "Then we start now," she said. "Show me everything." Victor's smile was slow, dangerous, full of pride and heat. "Go change into something you can move in. Meet me at the gun range in 20 minutes. And Isla, when I said I'd teach you everything, I meant it. By the time Senna gets here, you're going to be someone she underestimates at her peril." The next 72 hours blurred together in a haze of training and preparation. Victor was a patient teacher, but a demanding one, pushing Isla past her limits, and then past the limits she found beyond those. He taught her to shoot, starting with basic handguns and working up to rifles, making her practice until her hands stopped shaking, until she could hit center mass at 50 yards, until the weight of a weapon felt natural in her grip. "Breathe," he said, standing behind her at the range, his body a solid line of heat at her back. "Steady your breathing, find the space between heartbeats. That's when you squeeze the trigger." Isla fired, the recoil familiar now, and watched the target sprout a new hole exactly where she'd aimed. Better. Perfect. Victor's hands settled on her waist, turning her to face him. They were both sweaty from hours of practice, the tropical heat oppressive even in the covered range. "You're a natural at this. It should probably worry me how good you are at controlled violence." "You're the one who taught me," Isla pointed out, but she didn't step away from his touch. The physical awareness between them had only intensified over the past 3 days, every accidental brush of skin, every lingering glance building a tension that neither of them had time to address properly. "I'm teaching you to survive," Victor said, his thumb tracing small circles on her hip. "But watching you handle a weapon, watching you get stronger and more confident, it does something to me, Isla. Makes me want to forget about Senna and the threat and everything except getting you back in my bed." Heat pooled low in Isla's belly. They hadn't been intimate since that first night. Too much happening, too many revelations between them. But the want was always there, simmering just beneath the surface. "We don't have time for that. I know." But he leaned in anyway, pressing his forehead to hers. "When this is over, when you're safe, I'm going to take you on my yacht and sail somewhere Senna's never heard of. I'm going to make love to you, under every constellation, until you forget there was ever a world that hurt you. I'm going to worship every inch of you, until the only name you remember is mine." "That's a nice fantasy," Isla whispered, her hands fisting in his shirt. "It's not a fantasy. It's a promise." He kissed her then, hard and deep and too brief, pulling away before she could sink into it. "But first, you need to learn hand-to-hand combat. Come on, the gym." He taught her to fight dirty, to use an opponent's size against them, to go for vulnerable points without hesitation. KL joined them, his kind eyes sharp and assessing as he sparred with Isla, pulling his punches but not by much. She learned to fall, to roll, to turn a grab into a throw. Her body collected bruises like medals, each one proof she was becoming someone different. "You're thinking too much," Victor said, watching her grapple with Kale. "Stop fighting fair. There's no fair in survival. Kick him in the knee, thumb to the eye, whatever works." Isla adjusted, getting meaner, and managed to actually take Kale down. The satisfaction was visceral, primal. Victor's approval was even better, the heat in his eyes when he looked at her, making her feel powerful and desired in equal measure. At night, they ate together on the terrace, Victor sharing stories from his past. He didn't soften the truth, didn't make himself into anything better than he was. He told her about growing up poor in Bogota, fighting his way into the criminal underworld, building an empire on smuggling and fear and ruthless intelligence. He told her about meeting Senna, beautiful and ambitious, and just as ruthless as he was. "I thought I loved her," Victor said, staring into his wine. "But I think I just loved that she wasn't afraid of what I was. Turned out she wasn't afraid because she was worse. I wanted out of the life, wanted to go legitimate. She wanted more blood, more power, more everything. When I finally left, when I divorced her and started cutting ties to the criminal world, she took it as the ultimate betrayal." "How long ago?" Isla asked. 5 years. I've been clean for 5 years, mostly. The art dealing I do now is legitimate, or at least it doesn't involve murder. But Senna, she's never forgiven me for choosing a different path. She sees it as weakness. And my father fit into this how?" Victor's expression darkened. "Cassian was one of my best acquisition specialists. He could authenticate pieces, find buyers, move merchandise without raising flags. We worked together for almost a decade. But when Interpol started closing in on a particular deal, when we were about to lose everything, he panicked. I found out he was planning to turn state's evidence, to give them me in exchange for immunity. So you killed him." Isla said it without inflection, still trying to reconcile the father she remembered with the criminal Victor described. "I gave the order. I didn't pull the trigger myself, but that's a distinction without a difference." Victor reached across the table, taking her hand. "I won't insult you by saying I had no choice. I had a choice. I chose my survival over his. And I've regretted it every day since, not because Cassian didn't deserve consequences, but because of what it cost you." Isla looked at their joined hands, his scarred and strong, hers smaller but increasingly capable. "Tell me about him. The real him, not the version he showed me." Victor talked late into the night, painting a picture of Cassian Corvain that was complicated and flawed and human. A man who loved beautiful things, who loved his daughters in his way, but who also loved money and excitement and the thrill of getting away with crimes. It hurt to hear, but it also freed something in Isla, released her from the pedestal she'd kept her father's memory on. "He used to talk about you," Victor said quietly, "about how smart you were, how you had a real eye for art. He was proud of you, Isla. In his own damaged way, he loved you. But not enough to go straight. Not enough to protect me from this life. No, not enough for that." They sat in comfortable silence, the ocean providing a soundtrack of endless waves. Finally, Isla asked the question that had been building. "When Senna comes, what's the plan?" Victor's hand tightened on hers. "We draw her out, get her to reveal herself publicly enough that I can end this permanently. She wants something she thinks your father had, information or leverage, or maybe actual treasure. We use that, make her think she can get it. And then we spring the trap. What does she actually want? That's what I haven't figured out yet. Senna's obsessed with something Cassian had, something worth risking an assault on my island to find. Until we know what, we're fighting blind." The answer came the next morning in the form of a boat approaching the island. Kael's security team went on high alert, weapons ready, but the vessel carried a white flag. A single passenger disembarked, escorted by armed guards to the main house, and Isla's world tilted again when she saw who it was. Marlowe looked terrible, her usual polished beauty gone ragged. She had a black eye, split lip, and moved like her ribs hurt. When she saw Isla, she burst into tears. "Please," she sobbed, "please, you have to help me. I got away from them, but they'll kill me if they find me. Isla, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything." Every instinct, Isla had screamed, "Trap," but seeing her sister, her blood, broken and begging, ignited something she couldn't quite suppress. "What happened to you?" Dorian, when the plan failed, when you disappeared with Victor, Senna was furious. She had Dorian beat me, said I was useless, said she should have never trusted me with something so important. Marlowe's words tumbled out in a rush, desperate and scared. "I escaped 3 days ago. I've been hiding, trying to figure out where you went. Please, Isla. I know I don't deserve your help, but I have nowhere else to go." Victor appeared at Isla's shoulder, his presence a solid wall of protective menace. "This is convenient timing. I know how it looks," Marlowe said, addressing Victor directly. "I know you don't trust me, but I can help you. I know Senna's plans. I know what she's really after. Let me prove I'm on your side." "By telling us what, exactly?" Victor's voice was ice. Marlowe's eyes darted between them, calculating even through the fear. "Senna's not just after revenge. She's after something called the Convey collection. 50 million in smuggled art and antiquities that our father stole from her years ago. She's been searching for it for 5 years, ever since Cassian died. She thinks Isla knows where it is. Do you believe Marlowe is genuinely seeking help? Or is this another manipulation?" The revelation hung in the air, reshaping everything. Isla looked at Victor, saw her own suspicion reflected in his eyes. "I don't know anything about a collection," she said slowly. "But Cassian might have left you clues," Marlowe pressed. "Something you didn't recognize as important. Senna's convinced that Dad loved you most, that if he hid information anywhere, it would be somewhere connected to you." Victor made a decision, his expression hardening. "Kael, take Miss Corvain to the West Guest House. Post guards. She doesn't leave. She doesn't make contact with anyone off this island. If she so much as looks suspicious, you have my permission to handle it." "No, wait, I can help," Marlowe started, but Kael was already escorting her away, gentle but implacable. When they were alone, Isla turned to Victor. "You think she's lying?" "I think she's telling us exactly what Senna wants us to know," Victor said. "The question is why? What does Senna gain by having Marlowe feed us this information about a collection? Maybe it's real. Maybe my father did steal from her. Maybe. Or maybe it's bait to keep you here, to make you search for something that doesn't exist, while Senna prepares her real move." Victor pulled Isla into his arms, resting his chin on top of her head. "I won't let her use you. Whatever game this is, we play it on our terms." They kept Marlowe isolated for 24 hours, while Victor's people investigated her story. What they found was disturbing. Marlowe's injuries were real, recent, consistent with a severe beating. Her escape from Miami was documented by traffic cameras and airport security. Either she was telling the truth, or Senna had staged an incredibly elaborate deception. "I need to talk to her," Isla said. "Sister to sister, without guards and guns. Maybe she'll tell me something she wouldn't tell you." Victor looked like he wanted to argue, but he nodded. "Take this." He handed her a small device, a panic button disguised as a bracelet. "Anything feels wrong, you press it, and I'm there in 30 seconds. And Isla, don't believe anything she says without verifying it first. Marlowe's lied to you your entire life. A few bruises doesn't erase that." Isla found her sister in the guest house, staring out at the ocean. Up close, Marlowe looked even worse, pain etched into every line of her face. "He really doesn't trust me," she said, without turning. "Can you blame him? Can you blame me?" Isla sat in the chair across from her sister, maintaining distance. You slept with my fiancé. You smiled while you did it. You told me he never loved me. He didn't. Marlowe finally looked at her, and there was something broken in her eyes. But neither did I. Not the way I should have. Isla, there's something you need to know. Something about me, about us, about why I've always hated you. The words sent ice through Isla's veins. What are you talking about? Marlowe laughed, bitter and raw. We're sisters, but not the way you think. Cassian wasn't my father. Not biologically. Mom had an affair before she married him, got pregnant, and he agreed to raise me as his own. But I always knew I was different, knew he loved you more because you were actually his. The revelation rocked Isla, but something about it didn't quite land right. Who was your real father? Marlowe's smile was terrible. Mom never told me. She took that secret to her grave. But Senna knows. She told me 6 months ago when she recruited me. She said my real father was someone powerful, someone who could give me everything if I proved myself worthy. Understanding dawned like nausea. Senna told you she knows who your father is, and you believed her. She showed me proof. DNA evidence, photographs of Mom with a man I didn't recognize. She said, if I helped her get the convey collection, she'd tell me everything. Marlowe's voice broke. I just wanted to know, Isla. I just wanted to understand why I always felt like I didn't belong. Isla's heart cracked despite everything. She knew that feeling, the sensation of being adrift, of not quite fitting. So you betrayed me for information about a father you've never met. I betrayed you because I was weak and stupid, and Senna knew exactly which buttons to push. Marlowe wiped at her eyes, wincing when she touched the bruised skin. But then, she didn't deliver. I did everything she asked, pushed you and Dorian together, staged the affair, broke your heart, and she still wouldn't tell me the truth. When I demanded answers, she had Dorian beat me unconscious and dump me in an alley. That's when I realized I was never going to get what she promised. I was just another pawn. The story was almost believable, almost sympathetic. Isla wanted to believe her sister could change, could regret, could be redeemed. But Victor's warnings echoed in her mind. If you're telling the truth, help us. Tell us everything you know about Senna's plans. Marlowe nodded, eager now. She's coming here, to the island. 3 days, maybe 4. She's gathering forces, serious mercenaries this time, not the half-hearted assault from before. She's convinced the convey collection is hidden here, somewhere Victor would have stored Cassian's personal effects. She thinks if she takes the island, she can search at her leisure. And what does she think is in this collection? Not just art. Documents. Evidence of crimes committed by people in power, people who would pay anything to keep that information buried. Cassian apparently spent decades collecting insurance, blackmail material disguised as a art collection. Senna wants it for leverage, for power, to rebuild her empire. Isla stood, pacing, her mind racing. If Marlowe was telling the truth, if her father had hidden that kind of explosive information somewhere, it would explain so much. Senna's obsession, the years of searching, the willingness to risk everything. Did Dad ever give me anything? Something that seemed innocuous, but might have been more? Marlowe thought, then her eyes widened. The gallery. He left you that little gallery space in Miami, the one you never used because it needed so much renovation. What if he hid something there? It was possible. Isla had inherited a small, run-down gallery in her father's will, but she'd never had the funds to restore it, had left it locked and forgotten. If Cassian had wanted to hide something where only she could find it, where it would wait until she was ready, that would be the perfect place. She told Victor everything as soon as she left Marlowe. He listened, his expression growing darker. It's too convenient. Marlowe shows up, beaten and desperate, tells us exactly where to look, and now Senna's coming here in 3 days. This is a setup, Isla. Or it's an opportunity, Isla countered. If the collection exists, if we can find it first, we have leverage. We can use it to end Senna permanently. Victor pulled her close, his hands framing her face. I don't want to use you as bait. The thought of you in danger, of Senna getting anywhere near you, it makes me insane, Isla. I've lost too much in my life to lose you too. The raw emotion in his voice undid her. Isla rose on her toes, kissing him with all the fear and want and desperate hope she'd been carrying. Victor responded instantly, deepening the kiss, his hands sliding into her hair. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Isla said, Then we make sure she doesn't get near me. We plan, we prepare, and we finish this together. Together, Victor agreed, but if I tell you to run, you run. Promise me, Isla. No matter what happens, if I give you that order, you get out. I promise. Isla lied, knowing even then she'd never leave him to face Senna alone. They spent the next 2 days preparing. Victor arranged for a team to search the Miami gallery remotely, using drones and scanning equipment to check for hidden compartments without physically entering. They found it on the second day, a concealed safe behind a false wall in the office. Inside, exactly as Marlowe had suggested, were documents. Thousands of pages detailing criminal activities, names, dates, enough to bring down dozens of powerful people. And photographs of Senna, young and beautiful, standing beside a man Isla recognized from the news, a senator who died 3 years ago in a scandal. The photos showed them together in intimate settings, and with them, a young girl who looked exactly like Marlowe. Oh, God, Isla whispered, understanding crashing over her. Marlowe isn't just working for Senna, she's Senna's daughter. Victor's face went pale. Which means she's also Cassian's daughter. He and Senna had an affair, had a child together, and then what? Cassian stole the baby and passed her off as his wife's child? The pieces fell into horrible place. Cassian hadn't just worked with Senna, he'd been her lover, her partner. When their relationship ended, when he left her for Isla's mother, he'd taken Marlowe with him, raising Senna's biological daughter as his own. And he'd stolen the collection, Senna's insurance policies, as final revenge. Marlowe doesn't know, Isla said. She's been searching for her father's identity, and it's Senna all along. That's why Senna recruited her so easily. That's why she's so invested. She's been using her own daughter. And now she sent that daughter here to infiltrate us, to get close to you, to find the collection. Victor's voice was grim. We need to confront Marlowe now, before Senna arrives. They found Marlowe in the guest house, and the moment she saw their expressions, her face crumpled. You know, she whispered, you found something. Senna is your mother, Isla said, no gentleness in her tone. Our father stole you from her when you were a baby, and she's been using you, Marlowe. Using you to get to me, to find the collection, to destroy Victor. Did you know? Any of it? Marlowe's sob was answer enough. She told me yesterday. After I got here, she called on a hidden phone and told me the truth. Said my whole life was a lie, said Cassian stole me. Said if I helped her get the collection, she'd let me come home, be her daughter for real. She looked up, mascara running, face destroyed. But I don't want to be her daughter. I've seen what she is, what she's capable of. Isla, I know I've been terrible to you, but please, I don't want to be like her. Then prove it, Victor said, his voice hard. Senna's coming tomorrow. You said 3 days, but she moved up the timeline, didn't she? Because you told her we found the collection. Marlowe nodded miserably. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She said she'd kill me if I didn't cooperate. Said I was only alive because I was useful. But I can help you now. I can tell you her plans. I can be on your side. Why should we trust you? Isla demanded, her own anger finally breaking free. You've lied to me my entire life. You slept with my fiancé to destroy me. You're Senna's daughter and her spy. Give me one reason not to lock you in a cell until this is over. Because I'm choosing you, Marlowe said, her voice breaking. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing my sister over everyone else. Senna's coming with 20 armed mercenaries. She's planning to attack at dawn, hit the island from 3 sides. But she's also coming herself, personally, because she doesn't trust anyone else with the collection. If you let me, I can get close to her. I can end this." Victor and Isla exchanged glances, an entire conversation happening in silence. Finally, Victor spoke. "You want to kill your own mother? I want to stop a monster who's been manipulating me since before I was born. If that monster happens to share my DNA, that doesn't change what needs to be done." Marlowe stood, moving to the window. "I know you don't trust me. I know I don't deserve trust. But let me do this one thing right, please. Let me protect my sister for once instead of hurting her." Isla felt tears burn her eyes. All the complicated feelings she had for Marlowe, love and hate and betrayal and hope, tangling together. "If you betray us again, I'll kill you myself." "I know," Marlowe said. "I deserve it." They planned through the night. Victor's tactical mind and Cale's military experience shaping a defense that turned the island into a trap. They positioned security forces, set up kill zones, prepared contingencies for every possible approach. Marlowe provided intelligence on Senna's forces, their equipment, their strategy. If she was still playing them, she was doing it flawlessly. As dawn approached, Victor found Isla in the armory, checking her weapons for the 3rd time. "You don't have to be part of this," he said quietly. "I can still get you out, somewhere safe, until it's over." "We've had this conversation," Isla said, not looking up from her gun. "I'm staying. I'm fighting. Stop trying to protect me from my own choices." "I'm not trying to protect you from your choices. I'm trying to protect you from dying because of mine." Victor took the gun from her hands, setting it aside, pulling her into his arms. "Isla, if something happens to me today, if Senna wins, you take the yacht and you run. KL has instructions, money, everything you need to disappear. Nothing's going to happen to you," Isla said fiercely. "We're both walking away from this. We're getting on that yacht together and sailing somewhere beautiful and forgetting any of this ever happened." Victor's smile was sad, disbelieving. "You make me want impossible things. A future without violence. A life without looking over my shoulder. A world where I get to keep you." His hand cupped her cheek, thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized she'd shed. "I love you, Isla Corvain. I know I have no right to. I know I've done nothing to deserve it, but I love you with everything broken and damaged inside me." The words landed like a bomb, devastating and perfect. Isla had known on some level, but hearing him say it made it real, made it impossible to pretend this was just survival or convenience or trauma bonding. "Victor," she whispered. "You don't have to say it back," he said quickly. "I'm not asking for that. I just needed you to know, in case today goes wrong, that you were loved. Completely, impossibly, by a man trying desperately to be worthy of you." Isla pulled him down into a kiss, pouring everything she felt into it, all the fear and want and, yes, love, because somewhere between surveillance photos and gun training and brutal honesty, she'd fallen for her father's killer. "We're going to survive this," she said against his mouth. "And then you're going to spend the rest of your life proving you're worthy of me. Deal," Victor breathed, and kissed her again, deeper, desperate, like he was memorizing the taste of her. The attack came with the sunrise, exactly as Marlowe had predicted. Boats approached from 3 directions, armed mercenaries hitting the beaches with military precision. But Victor's forces were ready, turning the island's geography into an advantage, picking off attackers from elevated positions, funneling them into kill zones. Gunfire echoed across paradise, the sound of violence incongruous with the beauty of the morning. Isla was positioned in the main house with Victor and Cale, watching security feeds, coordinating the defense. She'd argued for a more active role, but Victor had refused, his protective instincts overriding his promise to treat her as a partner. She hated being sidelined, but understood the strategy. If Senna wanted the collection, she'd come for the main house eventually. The attack was brutal but organized. Senna's forces were professionals, adapting quickly, taking casualties but advancing steadily. Within an hour, they'd secured 2 of the 3 beaches and were pressing toward the house. That's when the helicopter appeared, sleek and black, landing on the estate's helipad. Senna Ashford emerged like a queen surveying her conquered territory. She was older than Isla expected, perhaps 50, but beautiful in a cold, refined way. She wore white, impractical for combat but making a statement. This wasn't just an attack, it was theater. Behind her came more guards and someone else, someone Victor recognized with a curse. "That's Anton Volkov," he said, "Russian arms dealer, one of the most dangerous men in the world. What the hell is Senna doing with him?" The answer came quickly. Anton carried a case, sleek and official-looking. He opened it, showing Senna something that made her smile. Then he handed her a phone, and she made a call. Victor's secure line rang. "Hello, Victor, darling." Senna's voice was honey over poison. "I'm on your lovely island. I have 20 armed men, Anton Volkov and his very special surprise, and I'm coming for what's mine. You can hand over the Corvain collection and the girl, or I can take them over your corpse. Your choice." "There's always a third option," Victor said, his voice cold. "I kill you and everyone you brought, burn the collection, and salt the earth where you fall." Senna's laugh was delighted. "Oh, I've missed this. You always were the most entertaining of my failures. But I don't think you'll do any of that, because Anton has brought me something special, a very specific toxin, military grade, that he's going to release across your island if you don't cooperate. Your people, your precious Isla, everyone dies choking in about 6 minutes. Unless, of course, you give me what I want. Would you sacrifice yourself to save everyone, or find another way to outmaneuver Senna?" Victor's face went ashen. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" "Anton, show them." On the security feed, Anton opened the case fully. Inside was a canister connected to a dispersal device. He made a show of activating it, a timer appearing. 10 minutes. Isla watched horror dawn across Victor's face. "Call off your men," Senna said. "Bring me the collection and Isla. Do it now, or everyone on this island dies." Victor looked at Isla, and she saw the war in his eyes, saw him calculating odds and finding no good answer. "Don't," she said. "Don't give her what she wants. I won't let you die for this, and I won't let you surrender to her." Isla grabbed his arm, desperate. "There's another way. There has to be." That's when Marlowe's voice came over the security system, broadcasting from somewhere on the grounds. "Hello, Mother. It's been a long time since we've talked, hasn't it? Since you told me the truth about who I am?" On the feeds, they watched Senna's expression shift from triumph to rage. "Marlowe, my disappointment of a daughter. Where are you, darling?" "Close enough." Marlowe appeared on one of the exterior cameras, standing on a balcony overlooking the helipad. She held something in her hands, too small to make out. "I have something you want. The real Corvain collection, the one Cassian actually cared about. Not the documents in Miami. Those were decoys. The real collection, Mother, the one with all your secrets." Senna's interest sharpened visibly. "Bring it to me. Now. Only if you deactivate the toxin and let everyone else go. This is between us, isn't it? You and me and the man who stole me from you. Let's finish it as a family." Isla watched her sister, seeing the plan, understanding what Marlowe was doing. She was drawing Senna's attention, making herself the target, giving them time. "She's buying us time," Isla said. "We need to use it." Victor was already moving, pulling up schematics of the helipad, calculating angles. "Kale, get your best sniper in position. The moment we have a clean shot on Senna, take it. And someone get to that toxin canister. Disarm it or get it off my island." The next 10 minutes were chaos and precision combined. Marlowe kept Senna talking, spinning a story about finding the real collection in a safety deposit box, leading her away from the helipad toward the main house. Senna followed, confident in her victory, Anton and her guards flanking her. Kale's sniper reported ready. The toxin team reached the canister, working frantically to disarm it. The timer read 4 minutes when Marlowe made her move. She'd led Senna and her entourage to the terrace, the same terrace where Isla and Victor had shared their first dinner. Now it became a battlefield. "The collection isn't here," Senna said, realization dawning. "You've been stalling." "Yes," Marlowe agreed. "I have. Because my real mother, the woman who raised me, even though I wasn't hers by blood, taught me that family protects family. And Isla is my family. You're just the woman who birthed me and abandoned me." Senna's face twisted with rage. "You ungrateful little bitch, I searched for you for years. Cassian stole you from me." "He saved me from you," Marlowe corrected, "and now I'm returning the favor for my sister." Senna drew a gun, but Marlowe was faster, pulling her own weapon. They stood facing each other, mother and daughter, across 6 feet of terrace. "You won't shoot me," Senna said. "You don't have it in you." "You're right," Marlowe said. "I don't." But he does. Kale's shot took Senna in the shoulder, spinning her around, the gun flying from her hand. Her guards reacted, raising weapons, but Victor's forces were already there, emerging from cover, surrounding them. Anton Volkov, practical above all else, raised his hands in surrender. "The toxin," Victor said into his comms. "Disarmed," came the reply. It was a bluff anyway, the canister was empty. Relief crashed through Isla so hard she nearly collapsed. Victor was already moving, running for the terrace, and she followed, needing to see it with her own eyes. They arrived to find Senna on the ground, wounded but alive, Kale's team securing her guards. Marlowe stood over her biological mother, gun still trained on her, hands shaking. "It's over," Isla said, moving to her sister's side. "You can lower the weapon, Marlowe. It's over." Marlowe finally looked at her, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry. For everything. For every terrible thing I've ever done to you." "I know," Isla said, and took the gun gently from her sister's hands. "I know. The aftermath took hours. Police and federal agents arrived, summoned by Victor's calls to contacts he still had in legitimate law enforcement. The Corvain collection, both the real one and the decoy, was turned over as evidence. Senna was arrested on multiple charges, attempted murder and terrorism, topping a very long list. Her empire, already crumbling, would collapse completely. Anton Volkov disappeared before he could be arrested, but Victor seemed unconcerned. "He's a businessman. Without Senna's money backing her vendetta, he has no interest in me." Marlowe was questioned extensively but ultimately released. The evidence of her help in stopping Senna, combined with testimony from Isla and Victor about her assistance, bought her a second chance. "What will you do now?" Isla asked as her sister prepared to leave the island. "Therapy. Probably years of it," Marlowe said with a weak smile. "And then maybe try to figure out who I am when I'm not being manipulated or manipulating others." "Isla, I know I don't deserve forgiveness." "No, you don't," Isla agreed, "but maybe someday you'll earn it. We're sisters. That has to count for something." The hug was awkward, tentative, but real. When Marlowe pulled away, she looked at Victor. "Take care of her. She's the best of all of us." "I know," Victor said simply. "I plan to spend my life proving I deserve that privilege." 6 weeks later, Isla stood on the deck of Victor's yacht, watching the sunset paint the ocean in shades of gold and amber. They'd been sailing for a month, no destination, no schedule, just endless water and each other. Victor emerged from below deck, 2 glasses of wine in hand, and wrapped his arms around her waist from behind. "We should probably decide where we're going eventually," he murmured against her neck. "Why?" Isla leaned back into him, content. "I like not knowing. I like just drifting." "You've changed," Victor observed. "The woman I found crying on a beach would never have been comfortable with uncertainty." That woman didn't know what she was capable of. Didn't know she could survive betrayal and violence and falling in love with someone impossible. Isla turned in his arms, looking up at him. You changed me, Victor Reyes. You ruined me for normal life. Is that a complaint? It's a compliment. She kissed him, soft and slow, tasting wine and salt air and promise. I love you. I don't think I've said it clearly enough. I love you, despite everything, because of everything, in ways that probably aren't entirely healthy, but feel perfect anyway. Victor's smile was brilliant, unguarded, the smile of a man who'd received a gift he'd stopped believing he could have. I love you too. Obsessively, possessively, in ways that definitely aren't entirely healthy. You make me want impossible things, Isla, like redemption, like a future without ghosts, like becoming the man you see when you look at me. You're already that man, Isla said. You're just learning to see it. They made love as the sun set, slow and tender. All the urgency and desperation of those first encounters mellowed into something deeper. Victor took his time, mapping her body like it was territory he'd never tire of exploring, whispering promises against her skin. I'm going to love you in every ocean, he said, kissing down her spine. Under every constellation, until you forget there was ever a world before us. I already forgot. Isla gasped as his hands worked magic. There's only this. Only you. Afterward, tangled in silk sheets that smelled like them, Isla asked the question that had been building. What happens when we go back to the real world? We build a new one, Victor said. I have some ideas, if you're interested. There's a gallery space in Barcelona, perfect location, perfect size. I thought maybe we could restore it, fill it with beautiful things, make it yours. Isla's heart swelled. You're buying me a gallery? I'm investing in your dream. There's a difference. You build it, you run it, you make it whatever you want. I just provide the resources and occasionally model for private viewings when you need inspiration. She laughed, the sound free and genuine. Model? I'm told I have excellent bone structure, Victor said solemnly, and I look very good in dramatic lighting. You look very good in any lighting, Isla corrected, running her hands over his chest. But yes, Barcelona sounds perfect, a fresh start. For both of us. Victor pulled her closer, tucking her head under his chin. I've officially sold off the last of my illegal holdings. Everything I own now is legitimate, clean, boring. I'm going to be a respectable art dealer and the partner of a brilliant gallery owner. Think you can handle being with someone that dull? I think you couldn't be dull if you tried, Isla said. But I'm willing to find out. They docked in Barcelona a week later, the city rising from the coast in a jumble of Gothic spires and Gaudi curves. The gallery was perfect, a converted warehouse near the Gothic quarter with soaring ceilings and light that seemed to pour from everywhere. Isla walked through the empty space, already seeing what it could become. Yes, she said, turning to find Victor watching her with that expression, the one that said she was the only priceless thing he'd ever wanted to keep. Yes to all of it. The gallery, the city, this life. Yes. Victor crossed to her in 3 strides, lifting her off her feet, kissing her like she'd just given him the world. I promise you, Isla Corvain, I'll spend every day proving that yes was the right answer. I'll be your partner, your protector, your biggest supporter. I'll love you so thoroughly you'll never doubt it, and I'll never, never take you for granted. Those are big promises, Isla said, wrapping her arms around his neck. Then I'll make good on them. Starting now. He set her down gently, then did something that made her heart stop. He knelt, pulling a small box from his pocket. I know it's fast. I know we've been through hell, and maybe we should wait. Be sensible, but I've never been sensible about you, Isla. I've loved you from the shadows, loved you in the light, loved you through every terrible thing. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend my life earning the gift of being yours? The ring was perfect, an emerald surrounded by diamonds, green like her eyes. Isla looked at it, at him, at the future spreading out before them, full of possibility and art and love hard won. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Victor, I'll marry you." He slid the ring onto her finger, then stood, pulling her into a kiss that tasted like promises and new beginnings. Outside, Barcelona hummed with life, a city of beauty and history and second chances. Inside their empty gallery, Isla and Victor held each other. Two broken people who'd found something whole in the pieces. "What do you want to name it?" Victor asked. "The gallery," Isla thought, looking around at the space that would become her dream. "Sanctuary," she said. "We'll call it Sanctuary, because that's what you gave me when I needed it most. Now I want to give it to others, a safe place to see beautiful things." "Sanctuary," Victor repeated, testing it. "Perfect. Just like you." They spent the rest of the afternoon planning, sketching layouts, discussing artists and exhibitions. As evening fell, they walked through the Gothic quarter, hand in hand, stopping for tapas and wine, talking about everything and nothing. Isla felt lighter than she had in years, unburdened by secrets and lies, free to simply be. That night, in their new Barcelona apartment, Victor made love to her with reverent intensity, showing her with his body what words couldn't fully express. When she came apart in his arms, his name a prayer on her lips, he followed her over the edge with her name on his. "I love you," he whispered into the darkness. "My Isla, my sanctuary, my home." "I love you too," she replied. "My Victor, my impossible, beautiful redemption." Outside, the city sparkled with lights, a world full of art and beauty and second chances. Inside, two people who'd found each other in the darkness held on tight, choosing love over fear, hope over hurt, a future built on honesty instead of the lies that had nearly destroyed them both. They'd been claimed by shadows once, but they'd walked into the light together, and in that light they'd build something beautiful. The end. Beloved listener, if this story gave you butterflies, comment your favorite moment in the story. I'll be reading every comment. Do take care of yourself. I'll send you in my next story. Lots of love.